Good morning, boys and girls. I'm Miss Jacobson here at home with APS, and I hope that you've had a great weekend. We are starting our fourth and final week here at home with APS. We have really loved teaching you through the spring and these 4 weeks in the summer, and hope that you have learned a great deal and had a lot of fun trying new things. It's been a joy for us to be with you during all of this time. And for our grown-ups that are watching, we have heard from many of you, and we really appreciate your comments and constructive ideas about how we can bring this show to students in an effective way. I would like to ask a favor of each of you. As we are closing out this work and getting ready for our fall semester, whatever that might look like here in APS, we are, like I said, we are finishing our work here at home with APS. We have a team of people, teachers, administrators, technology folks, security people, custodial help, who have been really helping us to bring these shows to our students since the beginning of March. And so a lot of these folks have dedicated their time and their energies at sometimes great personal risk during these unknown and unusual times. And so as we close out this summer work, if you are interested and would like to send us pictures of your work that you've done, letters or emails to the teachers that you've been listening to, we would love to hear from you and about how this work here at home with APS has affected your family and your education. We want to make sure that we pass all of those notes and cards and letters and well wishes on to our staff here who have put their time and their attention in this project. You know, it's given us something to do when we weren't quite sure what to do. It's given us an opportunity to be proactive. And that means to do something without just reacting to something and coming up with some crazy idea. We've had work to go to every day. We've had creative things to do. And we really felt like we were reaching out to our students. And that means all the world, because that's really why we're here. So send us your cards, send us your letters, anything that you can send to us. You can email either through the KNME comments box, or we have several other venues. You can write to us at apsdistancelearning@gmail.com. We have a Twitter handle at Home with APS, and we have a Facebook page. So any place, any one of those social formats that you can send us your wishes and your words, your pictures, and your samples of your work, we would love to see them. So hold on to your hats, because we are going to have a really great week here in our fourth and final week of At Home with APS. And we're going to get started here with Miss Maggie and Miss Mary, and we'll be right back.
Good morning, literacy learners. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of At Home with APS. Like Miss Jacobson was saying earlier, this is going to be our last week with you for the summer edition. And this week, we are going to be talking about animals from all over the world and how we can protect them as we move forward in our lives. Before we get started, we're going to have Miss Mary share another wonderful message from one of our librarians here in APS.
Miss Maggie, I have a message for the students from Reginald Chavez Elementary School. So, if you are a Reginald Chavez Tiger, listen up. Your librarian, Mrs. Denis, sends the following message to you. She says, "Go Tigers" from Reginald Chavez. I miss you tons.
Fantastic. So let's go into our essential question for this week. What can we do to protect the animals of the world? Now, this is kind of building on the work that we started all the way from the beginning of At Home with APS. We started at home with our pets and what we can do to take care of them and have them as good pets. Then we expanded that out to the farm animals and how they were different. Then we moved out into New Mexico animals in different habitats. And now we're going to bring it out to the entire world, because there are many animals that are not native to New Mexico and live in different parts of the world. So let's think about, what do we already know about some of these animals, and where do they live, if not in New Mexico? And I'm wondering, What are some other habitats around the world, Miss Mary, that we might already know of?
Well, let's see. When we discussed habitats last week, we put them into 5 major groups.
Yes.
We talked about how there are water habitats, but we didn't call them water habitats. We called them aquatic.
I remember that word.
Then we talked about grasslands, and we talked about tundras. We also talked about forests, and then there had to have been one more. Can you think of what that was?
I think I remember.
What was it?
Grasslands.
Okay, so grasslands, forest, aquatic, tundra.
We did talk about 5.
But my mind is blank right now.
The desert.
The desert, oh, silly me. The desert, which is where most of the habitat that most of New Mexico is.
That's right. So let's talk about some of those habitats, because you are going to see some of those habitats come up again in this warm-up activity as we start talking about these animals. But these types of habitats are not in New Mexico and might look a little bit different. So as we're looking at these animals, for example, this polar bear here that's in the center of the screen, you'll notice that his habitat kind of looks similar to one that we talked about last week. It kind of looks like the tundra, right? Well, it's a little bit different. It's still very snowy, and it's still this long, barren land, but it's not located in New Mexico. So our little polar bear actually lives in a place called the Arctic, which is way, way, way north. And it's very, very cold there. Now, Miss Mary, I'm going to challenge our students this week to not only think about how we expand that sentence by adding in the location, but adding in an adjective.
Oh, we worked on adjectives last week when we were talking about describing the animals or the nouns that named the animals.
Yes, like bushy tail.
I remember that one because we were discussing whether we should use bushy tail or long tail. And then we learned that we could actually put in both of those adjectives to describe what kind of tail.
Absolutely. So when we think about a polar bear, in looking at the picture and thinking about our polar bear that we might have, for example, this is my polar bear that I have for us today. What might be an adjective that we can use to describe our polar bear?
Well, the first one that comes to mind would tell me what color.
Yes.
So I might put in a white polar bear.
I could also do size as well to describe the polar bear. I could say a large polar bear.
But what if I didn't want to use the word large? What if I wanted to use a different size word? Could I do that?
Absolutely. There are many different kinds of description words that we could use. What would you do to the word large? What would you change it to?
Well, you know, I've seen polar bears not in the wild, but at our beautiful Albuquerque Zoo. And the word that pops into my mind is enormous.
Oh, that's such a great word. So we can say an enormous polar bear lives in the Arctic.
But you know, now that I'm thinking of it, maybe enormous isn't quite the right word. Maybe that would be a better fit for a word like an elephant or a blue whale.
Oh.
So sometimes I have to like play around with words to find the just right word.
And that's what you can do as well. You can play around with words, try different words out, and change them if you need to. Let's try another one. This is a red-eyed tree frog. And a red-eyed tree frog, as you can see here, he's a little bit of a smaller creature. And in the background, he's actually sitting on the leaf of a tree. So let's think about where exactly this red-eyed tree frog lives. Now, he lives in forests, just like many of our New Mexico animals do, but he actually lives in tropical trees. And tropical means that it's very warm, very hot, and it has a lot of humidity, which is moisture in the air. And so he lives in tropical trees. Now, Miss Mary, let's think. What's an adjective that I could use to describe this red-eyed tree frog?
Well, when I looked at the picture and I saw all those colors, the word that popped into my mind was colorful. A colorful red-eyed tree frog lives in tropical forests.
That's right. That's a great example. Let's try another. Oh, this one is an Asian elephant. And I specifically say Asian elephant because there are many different species of elephants. And Asian elephant is specific to this one's name because of some of the characteristics they have, like the size of their ears or their bodies. So, an Asian elephant lives in forests and grasslands. But once again, not necessarily exactly in New Mexico in the wild, but in different parts of the world. So, Miss Mary, what's an adjective that we could use for an Asian elephant?
Well, let's see. We've talked about colors. We've talked about size. I wonder if there's a different category that we could use. You know, one thing that I know about Asian elephants is that they're often used to do work and that they're very hardworking. And that they're also very strong.
Oh.
So I might use the word strong to describe an Asian elephant because I don't know that this Asian elephant is working right now. It does look very strong to me. So I might say a strong Asian elephant lives in forests and grasslands.
That's right. Let's try another. Ooh, did that out of order. So this is an African wild dog. Now, interestingly enough, African wild dogs, people often confuse them with hyenas. Now, but there's a big difference though. Hyenas are actually more closely related to cats, and African wild dogs are significantly different looking if you put the pictures side by side. You can often notice it because of their ears.
You know, I did notice that those ears are different looking from a hyena's.
That's right. So these African wild dogs, they live in grasslands, savannas, and in open woodlands. So they live in a lot of different places. Now, Miss Mary, what adjective would you use to describe this African wild dog?
Well, as soon as you brought up the picture, I started thinking about it because I knew you were going to ask me. Did you know that she was going to ask that? And did you already start thinking about which adjective we should use? I've got one in my mind. I wonder if any of the rest of you can guess what I'm thinking. I'm looking at the pattern that's on the fur of this African wild dog. Does that give you a clue? Okay, you ready? Should we say it together? 1, 2, 3. Spotted.
Oh, that's a great adjective.
So a spotted African wild dog lives in, let's see, savannas, grasslands, open forests. Was that what you said?
Open woodlands.
Open woodlands. Got it.
Yeah, but close to forests, yes. Let's try another. This one is a bighorn sheep. And a bighorn sheep lives in mountains. Now, we do have some bighorn sheep that do live in New Mexico mountains, but that's not all. They can live in so many different countries and continents within the mountains as well. And so these ones are actually rams because of how large their horns are. And so this bighorn sheep lives in the mountains. But what might we use to describe this bighorn sheep?
You know, I'm looking right now at his feet and about how he's able to keep his balance
Yes.
on what looks like a rock or a boulder.
Yes.
And it also looks like there's some snow there. And that makes me think that maybe that's kind of slippery. So I think I would describe this bighorn sheep as sure-footed.
Oh, sure-footed.
What do you think that means based on everything that I was saying?
I think it means that he knows exactly where to step because it's a slippery mountain hillside, but he's still able to keep his balance.
It's pretty good.
And now let's try this one. Now in the picture, you'll notice that it's a little different than the stuffed animal that I have in my hand. So this one is a humpback whale in the picture. And this one is an example of a beluga whale. So there are different types of whales, but they tend to live in a similar habitat. And they mostly live in oceans, large bodies of water where they can live. Now, there are smaller whales that can live in large rivers or lakes or seas, but the really big ones like the humpback whale need to live in the ocean. So, what adjective could we use to describe the whale?
Well, I think now that adjective that I had used for polar bear fits better with describing a humpback whale.
Oh, I agree.
So an enormous humpback whale lives in the ocean.
Perfect. Now, I think I might have forgotten a picture, but that's okay because I have our little stuffed animal here. This is a red panda. And now a lot of our students at home are probably looking at this animal and thinking, panda, that does not look like a panda, because they think of a panda as a black and white bear. But this one is a red panda. And this red panda lives in mountain forests. And so when you look at this red panda, students, what adjective, description word comes into your mind? Miss Mary, do you want to give it a try?
Well, the first one that popped into my mind was, oh, it's so cute.
Oh, a
So-
cute red panda.
Exactly, a cute red panda.
And so we have different types of animals that live all over the world. And we're not going to have time this week to talk about every single one of them. But we will explore a couple of them and specifically talk about what can we do to protect these animals of the world so that way they can still live in their natural habitats happily. And we're going to start that today by reading a story. This is a nonfiction book, and it's called Whales and Dolphins. Now, Whales and Dolphins is from Usborne Discovery, and that's a type of publishing company that does many types of books like this. Now, this book was written by Susanna Davidson, and if you notice here on the title page, there are a lot of different people that helped make this book. So it's also designed by Nalupa Hussain and Catherine Ann McKinnon. So they helped kind of put together this book. It's illustrated by John Woodcock, and consultant is Sonia Mendez. And so the consultant is somebody who assisted in the making of this book, and the illustrator helped draw the pictures that inside. But Miss Mary, if you notice, this is not an illustration, it's a photograph.
Well, and what I know about nonfiction books is that a lot of nonfiction books use photographs because nonfiction books are about real people, real places, and real things. So often the authors choose to use real photographs of those things.
Yes. And so while they may not be listed here on this front page, on one of the back pages, there's actually an entire list of all the photographs that are in this book, along with a list of the photographers that took those images. And students, that's really important, is that if you're going to use a picture that somebody would like credit for example, some of the images that we use do not require that attribution, but, that recognition for their work. There are other photographers that would like you to reference who they are and that they were the ones that took the photograph. And make sure that you always do that. So in this book, in this nonfiction book, we have tons of information, Miss Mary, a lot of information. And in these tables of contents, we have various different topics. And we're going to talk today about how to find the information that we need surrounding the question that we have, which is, how do we protect animals? What can we do to protect animals in our world? And so when I'm looking at this, there's a couple of places that I want to visit that might help me. The first one, I'm definitely going to want to know what underwater mammals are, because the title of the book is Whales and Dolphins. So why would they start off with the topic of underwater mammals? Maybe I'm going to need to read that first. And then, Miss Mary, there's another part here, page 28, that says whales and people. That sounds like it might be a good clue as to how I can answer my question on protecting animals of the world. So I'm definitely going to look at that section. So now here is my first page. I'm going to read a part of this to you. And as I read, I'm going to ask you about how we monitor our reading, because sometimes, especially when we're reading more challenging text, we get confused. And that's okay. It's not meant to be perfect every single time we read it the first time. But there's things that we do as readers to help check our own reading and make sure that we understand.
You know, Miss Maggie, I find I have to do that all the time. I have to monitor or keep track of my own brain to make sure a couple of things. Number one, am I still focused on what I'm reading, or has my mind wandered off? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes I'll read something which will remind me of something, and then I'll start thinking about that other thing, even though I keep reading.
That's happened to me before.
So I have to bring myself back. And sometimes I'll be reading and I'll just kind of pass over something and then realize, wait a minute, I have no idea what that just said.
Exactly. Sometimes we just get confused. Sometimes we don't understand all the words that we just read. But there are strategies, there are things that we can do to help us with that understanding.
Okay, well, I need this lesson because I read all the time, and I really have to make sure that I'm using those strategies that'll help me to be an efficient reader.
Yes. So I will model for you how we do that. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to start reading on page 4, and unfortunately my picture did not come out that well, but that's okay because I have the book right here. I am going to read the first 2 paragraphs over here on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, the part that we can't see very well on the screen.
That's okay. You can listen as Miss Maggie reads.
Whales are among the largest and most intelligent animals living in the sea. Many people think of dolphins as being different from whales, but they are actually a kind of small whale. Whales live in seas and oceans all over the world, and some dolphins live in rivers. Family matters. There are 2 main types of whales: whales with teeth, called toothed whales, and whales without teeth, called baleen whales. Scientists also divide up different kinds or species of whales into families. Species that share similar features belong to the same family. I'm going to pause right there because that last sentence had a lot of words that were really confusing for me. And so now I'm thinking, what does that mean? Species that share the same similar features belong to the same family. Well, Miss Mary, is there anything on this page that might help me understand that sentence a little bit better?
You know, I'm looking at this page and I see that the author has included a diagram.
Oh.
And it's actually positioned really closely to this paragraph. But anytime that there's a diagram, I pay attention to it.
Yes.
Because I know that I learn in a lot of different ways, not so much by hearing and by reading, but more by seeing things.
I see.
And I know a diagram will help me. So I think that we should look more carefully at the diagram.
Okay, so I'm going to look at the diagram right here. I see baleen whales, and I see a couple different whales that are in this group here. And then I also see toothed whales, and I see some whales and dolphins within this group here.
And I remember as you were reading that it talked about the two different groups of whales. There were toothed whales and whales without teeth, and they were called baleen.
Yes. Okay. I think that helps me a little bit more to understand what I just read. So baleen whales have no teeth, and toothed whales have teeth, so they have similar characteristics. Oh, they are groups that have the same things.
Interesting. And then I can look and I can see which ones have teeth and which ones don't have teeth.
I think that helps me a little bit more understand what the text was saying. Let's try another example. So this is the section that I was talking about before, Miss Mary, that I think will help me answer my question about what we can do to protect animals of the world. So in this nonfiction text, I'm actually going to look a little bit deeper now. And how I'm going to look deeper is instead of just looking at this title here, I'm going to look at something we call the headings. Can you say headings? That's right. Headings actually take all of the text and put it into smaller groups. So I see friendly dolphins, dolphin myths, dolphins to the rescue, hunted whales, and threats today. I think these ones, dolphins to the rescue, hunted whales, and threats today, might be the best ones to read to try and figure this out. Let me try it. Dolphins to the rescue. There are lots of true stories of dolphins protecting people from sharks. For example, in 1992, a woman was swimming off the coast of Tonga in the Pacific when a large shark appeared. Within moments, the woman was surrounded by dolphins, which stayed with her until the shark swam away. That was really interesting to learn. But Miss Mary, did it really help me answer my question?
It didn't. It talked about how dolphins help people, but not necessarily how people can help dolphins.
So maybe I need to keep reading on. Hunted whales. In the past, whales were hunted for their blubber, meat, and oil. However, people's attitudes to whales are changing. Hunting whales is now banned in most countries, and whale watching has become very popular. There are rules about how to approach whales so the whales are not disturbed. That sounds a little more like what I could do to help protect whales. And if I take a look here as well, I realize that I don't know very much about blubber, meat, oil, and I don't know very much about whale hunting. So because I'm not an expert in that, I might need to talk to somebody. Miss Mary, who do you think would be good people I could talk to learn more about that, especially if I don't understand what I'm reading?
Well, I think that there are a lot of people who have jobs that help them to be experts or specialists with marine or water animals. For example, there's marine biologists. You might find a marine biologist at an aquarium or at a zoo.
That could be something I could definitely do to learn more about this topic, especially if I get confused when I'm reading. I'm going to see what happens when I read this part, threats today. Threats today. Whales still face many threats from people. Poisonous waste dumped into the sea can build up inside whales' bodies and damage their health. The biggest threat to dolphins is from fishing nets. Thousands of dolphins die each year when they get tangled up in fishing nets and drown. There was a lot of information in there that I didn't know before. So I can talk to somebody, one of those specialists that you mentioned earlier. What else could I do to find out more information and really gain a good understanding of what I just read?
You know, I just noticed that this book actually has internet links listed right here. It says for links to exciting websites about this subject, go to usbornquicklinks.com and enter the keywords discovery whales.
Okay, so I could look on the internet as well to gain a deeper understanding of what I just read.
Especially because you may not easily have access or you may not be able to get a hold of a marine biologist, especially right now, but you could go to the internet and get some information that way.
That's a good idea. Let's try one more. Now, this section here, Miss Mary, I found this actually as I was looking through the book and going through the headings this time because I found a hidden heading that might help to answer my question. And I found it right here, dolphins in danger. That might help me answer my question, but it wasn't listed in the table of contents. Sometimes I have to go to the topic and I have to look at the headings a little bit closer to find information I'm looking for.
It sounds to me like you were scanning through the pages where you were not reading every word, just scanning those headers to see if something might jump out at you.
Absolutely. And that's something that you can do as a reader too. So this part is about river dolphins. River dolphins are in danger of dying out. People are draining the rivers where the dolphins live and are catching so many fish that there are not enough left for the dolphins to eat. The most endangered dolphins are the Yangtze River dolphins. There are fewer than 200 left. So in thinking about that, I'm going to pause for a second and think. What did I just read? Because that was a lot of information. There's not a lot of dolphins, and that there are so many fish being caught that there's not enough left for those dolphins. So that, I think, is really what I'm trying to read. And that was a little tricky for me just by reading it one time.
But it sounds like you used a strategy that you taught us about last week, where you read the paragraph and then you put it into your own words in a summary with just a couple of sentences.
So those are things that you can do when you get confused from what you were reading. Let's go ahead and let's move forward, and we're going to do some wordplay activities now. So this is going to be a game called Add It or Drop It. And so with this game, we are focusing on adding sounds or deleting sounds. Now, if you remember from the last couple of weeks, we've been working with individual sounds called phonemes. And those individual sounds are what make words. So we're going to be looking at words like this. that we'll talk about in just a second. And we will be either adding or dropping the initial, the first, or the final, the last sound.
So we're not worried about letters with this right now, because that would be a phonics lesson, which we'll get to, but not yet.
Exactly.
We're just going to be dealing with the sounds, the phonemes.
Yes. So let's try this first word. This first word is feet. When we take a look at this word, it's not moving forward. That's okay. My screen appears to be stuck, but that's okay. So let's say the word feet. Say feet.
Feet.
Let's say each sound in the word. Eat. Feet. So in the word feet, we're going to take away that initial sound. And in that initial sound, that f, we're going to take it away. We're going to drop it.
Okay. We've moved forward now.
Oh, perfect. Whoop. So when we have that initial sound dropped, here we go. There we go. We're on the perfect slide now. Now we are left with two sounds. Eat. What's the word?
Eat.
That's right. And so for that example, we have a squirrel eating. Eat. Let's try this word. The word is gate.
Gate.
So we have g, a, t. Gate. There are three sounds. Now we're going to drop the g. We're going to drop it. What word are we left with?
Eight.
That's right. Eight. 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 Let's try this one. This one only has two sounds. This is the word ice. Ice. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drop that last sound. Not the first one, but the last sound. Now we are left with
I.
I. That's the sound. Let's try another one. This one is the word deer. Deer has three sounds. Or I'm sorry, two sounds. My apologies, two sounds. D, ear, deer. Let's drop the first sound. What are we left with?
Ear.
That's right, ear. Let's try this one. In this word, we have three sounds. Ready? B, O, T. The word is
Boat.
Let's drop the T. Now we have B, O. The word is
Bow.
That's right. That's how you play a game like Drop It. Now, let's see what happens when we add sounds. So back to that word bow again, where we have those two sounds. The B, O. Now, add a third sound at the end. Let's add ol.
B,
O, ol. The word is
bowl.
bowl. Let's try this one. This one has two sounds. This is the word arm. Ready? R, arm. Let's add an initial sound here. We're going to add a f. Ready? R, farm. The word is farm. Let's try this one. Ready? This one has three sounds. Sh, e, ul, shell. The word is
Shell.
Now I'm going to ask you to add a sound here at the end. Ready? Sh, e, o, f. Shelf. The word is
Shelf.
Let's try one more. Ready? This word has two sounds in it. Do you see the picture? Here we go. E, g, egg. Now let's add a ul, and we have ul, egg, leg. The word is
Leg.
That's how you play Add It and Drop It. Let's do a quick warm-up before we get into our word building. A apple a. E ed e. U up a. I itch I. O octopus ah. Y yellow y. C cat k. F fun f. T top t. P pan p. J jug j. Z zebra z. C-H chin ch. S-H ship sh. Okay, now let's do some of those long vowels. A safe A. O home O. I pine I. E peat E. U mule U. U rule oo. I bait A. Play A. I coin oi. Boy oi. Now I have two new sounds to introduce to you today. This one is E-A, eat, E.
E-A, eat, E.
And E-E, jeep, E.
E-E, jeep, E.
We're going to practice with some of those words when we come right back. Welcome back, literacy learners. Now what we're going to do is we are going to work on decoding words that we build with our letter cards that we have here. So we're going to start off with a couple of warm-up words. So I will ask Miss Mary to put up the cards. We will tap them out, and then we will blend them together to read the word. So let's do a couple of warm-up easy words first. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters F-I-T?
F, I, and T. Got it.
Let's tap that out together. Ready? Here we go. It, fit. The word is fit. Let's try another. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters J-E-T?
J-E-T.
Let's go ahead and let's decode that word. Ready? J-E-T. Blend it. Jet. The word is jet. Perfect. Let's try this one now. Let's make it a tiny bit more difficult. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters C-H-O-P?
C-H-O-P.
Let's try this one. Ready? Here we go. Ch, ah, p, chop. The word is chop. Now I'm going to make it just a tiny bit harder. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters S-O-F-T?
S-O-F-T.
Let's tap that one out. S-A-F-T. Blend it. Soft. The word is soft. Let's try the next one. Now I'm going to add another level of difficulty. Let's try this one. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters Z-O-N-E?
Z-O-N-E.
Now, students, I want you to take a notice at this word. We've used the letter O pretty frequently in these last couple, but look at the word for a second. Is this O going to make the same sound as the other words did? Miss Mary, what do you think?
It's not.
How do you know?
Because I see a silent E at the end.
Oh, that's
And I know he's silent, that E, but very strong because he can make the O, or she, say its name.
Well, let's tap that out then. Ready? Z-O-N. Blend it. Zone. The word is zone. Perfect. Now let's try some words that have some of our vowel teams that we worked with last week. Let's try this word. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters M-E-A-T?
M-E-A-T.
And I realize now that that's one from this week, but that's okay. We need to
okay.
practice those ones as well. Let's tap that one out, because this one was actually in our story today. Ready? M-E-T. Meat. The word is meat. Now, students, remember the E-A together make the sound E. Say E. Perfect. Let's try another word. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters J-E-E-P? All right. Remember what happens when we get to that E-E. Let's try it. J-E-P. Blend it. Jeep. The word is Jeep. That E-E makes the E sound. Let's do a couple more for review. Let's try the letters C-L-A-Y.
C-L. I'm not going to pull these cards.
No?
I'm going to go to our vowel team, A-Y.
That's right. Students, do you remember what sound A-Y makes? Think it in your head. Let's try tapping it out together. K-O-A. Blend it. Clay. The word is clay. Excellent. Miss Mary, would you please put up the letters J-O-I-N? And then now, will you also add a suffix S? All right, boys and girls, let's do the base word first, and then we'll add in that suffix S. Ready? Here we go. J-O-I-N. Blend it. Join. The base word is join. Now add in the suffix s, joins. The word is joins. Perfect. Let's try this one. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters P-A-I-N-T? And will you also add the suffix ing? Now, remember, let's do the base word first. Let's tap it out. Ready? P-A-N-T. Blend it. Paint. The base word is paint. Now say the base word with the suffix ing. Painting. The word is painting. Excellent job. Let's try one more. Miss Mary, will you please put up the letters T-O-Y? Think about what sound that O-Y makes. Ready? Here we go. T-oy, blend it. Toy, the word is toy. Excellent work, students. So we just practiced with a lot of different words. And one of the things I'm starting to notice, Miss Mary, is that as we get older and go through first, second grade, our words get a little more complicated. They have a lot of different rules, don't they?
They do, and I'm noticing that there are so many different ways to make, say, for example, A. We could say A consonant E, we could say A-Y, we could say A-I.
And so as we go through the rest of this week, we're still going to be looking a lot at vowel teams and so on and so forth. On Wednesday, we're going to practice spelling those words. And we'll even have a couple of new sounds that focus on a different type of vowel team as well. So let's go ahead, let's put our board down, and then we'll talk about how we're going to close out the episode for today. Now, students, we did not include a fluency part today because we really wanted to take our time with you to explore habitats and the different types of animals in the world, and really talk to you about some of those non-fiction text features that can help you answer key questions that you have. We also played a word game today where we either dropped or added a sound into different words that can make brand new words. And these are all things that you can do at home with a grown-up or with any of your siblings as well. These are some fun games to play. Also with these sounds, we worked on moving that into letters and using letter cards to build those words and decode them. That's something you can do at home as well when you're playing with the word cards that you have at home, or even just letter cards. They're very easy to make. Now, as we go through this week, we're going to continue working on how do we protect animals of the world. You'll be able to find this episode along with our other episodes on our APS YouTube channel, where you can rewatch any of our summer episodes along with the ones from the spring, and access any of our resources on the APS website. Now, Miss Mary, what are we going to look forward to tomorrow?
So excited because we have a book to read that I read to my students at SY Jackson last year in the library right after it was published. It's by Brendan Wenzel, who's one of my favorite authors. So tune in for that. You're gonna really enjoy it.
So this has been Miss Maggie
And Miss Mary.
And we want to thank you again for joining us for At Home with APS Summer Edition. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.